Welcome back to a new episode of Emerging Brands with Kelly Bennett podcast. I have a very special guest, someone who we talked on Zoom a few weeks ago. And after the conversation, I was like, wait, can I just have you on my podcast? Because I wish I just hit record during our conversation. So, Breana Teubner, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk with you today.
Hi, Kelly. Me too. It's meant to be.
It was meant to be. So, Breana is the COO of TYB, which is a really cool brand that I've been following for the past year. That's really innovative using Web3 community building, and Breana is behind it. And I wanted to talk with you today, Breana, and ask you first your own personal journey of how did you get here? What's your personal story of building brands?
Yes, for sure. And I think it always seems to sound like it makes sense in 2020, but something that I really felt my way into as a brand builder of almost 20 years now. And as the technology continued to shift and brand builders had to think about using that technology to build in a different way, is really kind of the arc of my story. I started my career way back when, actually at Walmart. This was in the mid-aughts before anyone was ever buying anything online, and thinking about what e-com would mean. Like, what categories would people buy online? What categories would they not buy online? What would it take to sell certain categories online? And then I'm a recovering management consultant. So after business school, spent some time helping consumer brands think about social media. So this is in the tens and social media
Yep.
strategies. I remember back in the day, I think you do too, where, fashion companies, for example, they didn't want bloggers to attend their fashion shows. They didn't want,
Mm-hmm.
people to post their looks on Instagram. And because on the back end, it completely reconfigured the way that they would have to build their supply chain to deliver what the market was seeing and needing at the time.
I remember the days of when marketing directors, chief marketing officers would ask, do you think social media is going to be a thing? And they're
Exactly.
running like a international multi-billion dollar company. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a thing. Like you're going to need to do it. So I remember in the early like 2009, 2010, 2011 those conversations. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a thing. Like start thinking about it. So
I
I definitely
know.
resonate with that.
It was a crazy time. And I think, for those of us that lived through it and worked through it, I remember after business school, I graduated in 2011 and someone had an offer. I think it was, with one of the big consulting firms or something like that, and ended up going to this little company called Instagram at the time that we just knew
Wow.
those cool pictures. And, frankly, I think we all remember being like, what is that? What are you doing? I remember when brands first started using hashtags.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time I added a brand in one of my social posts. And I remember the mentality was like, oh my God, they're going to see me. Am I going to get into trouble? I don't have a marketing agreement with them. And that's just because that's how things have been done in the past.
You're bringing back so many memories of like tweet ups. Do you remember
Oh
those?
my God. Yeah.
Right? Okay, I'm really happy now that I have a new friend to geek out about back in the day social media and building brands because it's a very nuanced conversation that so many people now are like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" But I'm like, "No, it was a totally different conversation." Right?
Yes.
So from then to now, give me like how you built your career. And also, I love how you say that you're a brand builder. That really resonates with me a lot. So I really love that verbiage. But where did you go from there of starting to work with brands on social, building brands, starting at Walmart, like thinking about e-commerce from then to now? Like, what did that look like?
Well, the big change or the big shift in kind of catapulting my perspective and obviously leading into the tech that we've built today at TYB is I met gaming as an industry. So at the time, after consulting, I co-founded the Gap Inc. Innovation Group, and we spent a lot of time forecasting out kind of macro trends, thinking about what would come for that at the time 16 billion portfolio of brands.
Wow.
And we saw so much, of course, in fashion, it makes sense, right? I always used to joke, like, if you're looking for true digital fashion innovation, why not look to someone who's, built a garment for an elephant flying through the air, hurling fireballs, right? Like, there's some
Mhm.
complexity in having to divide to design garments inside of gaming. And so as I got deeper into gaming, I ended up going and working at a gaming platform. We were a software development kit that enabled game developers to build loyalty and rewards essentially into their games. And the two things that just blew my mind that I took away from learning about from being so close to gaming was one, 75% of the gaming industry revenue comes from people buying goods and experiences inside of games, which blew my mind, right? And that
Wow.
if that's not retail and e-com, then what is? Um,
Right.
the second big thing that blew my mind was the plurality of gamers are women 35 to 45. So for me, just debunking that myth of what we grew up with was the consoles and the game cartridges. It's like, no, it was women playing Candy Crush, waiting to pick up their kids from school with their friends. And the light that went off for me, I think, coupled with my 20 years of brand building experience, plus the handful of years gaming, was not that every brand is going to have to build a game. Like, that's not what we're talking about. It's just that the new surprise and delight is this gamified social way of people coming together to buy goods and services or experiences digitally. And so the question naturally comes to, how does that translate into both digital and retail or IRL? And how do brands provide that new surprise and delight in a way that's authentic to them?
I love everything you just said. You're like speaking all my favorite, like, again, nuanced niches of building brands and community and surprise and delight, IRL, retail, all the things that you just said. I'm like, ah, I love everything you just said. So now that you're on, say, the other side as far as working with a brand that's very tech forward, right? Integrating Web3 and uh, being able to gamify brand loyalty, customer feedback. What has that experience been like as far as being the COO of a brand that is so forward thinking as far as using technology for retail?
Well, I think there's a couple of advantages. So, one, we're a team of brand builders. So, super lucky and fortunate to have met our CEO, Ty Haney, who in building TYB had come off of her experience building Outdoor Voices, where
Right.
community was their moat. And
Mm-hmm.
she had built that into a 15,000 strong community, people attending events, IRL events. And I think she hacked a lot of what social provided at the time, social media technology provided at the time, to build and create what she instinctively knew needed to happen to build a brand and cut through the noise. The challenge that she had is that everybody that she was managing all of that with spreadsheets on the back end, and
Mm.
she couldn't measure it. So she couldn't connect that IRL engagement to digital engagement. She couldn't reward those fans that were taking all of those valuable actions behind the OV community. And so we've brought together both of our experiences in brand building to build a tool or technology that we would want to use if we were building the next generation of brands.
I love it. And I went to an IRL
I
activation, which
know.
was
We were so
so
happy to have you.
cool in New York City, and just kind of seeing the touch points of like the QR code on the ground and logging in, and then I got an email and like a coin popped up, and then there was people exercising and working out, and there was product, and I was like, this is cool. It was a really cool crossover of using technology and different touch points, but also having that real life community where I think so many people have it in their minds that it has to be either or. So I thought it was a really nice experience of having both.
Yes. And I think, backing up to kind of the story of all of our careers and what we were talking about of experiencing working with executives to talk about how people will shift their behaviors to buy things online all
Hmm.
the way up into the tens with, yes, social media, to your point, is going to be around. It's going to be a
Right.
thing, and that's going to impact the way that you structure your digital marketing capabilities, and it's going to bring the advent of customer acquisition costs and lifetime value. Those were all newer KPIs and concepts at the time. So similarly, what we're facing now is this increased democratization that technology has provided, where consumers can have a more intimate and close relationship with the brands that they work with, given that technology. And we believe the next evolution of that is brands that are built with community, for community, and ultimately owned by community. And so we're simply creating the technology or the platform so brands can white label, create those experiences like you did at the exercise Joe Holder event a few weeks back.
Yes, it was so cool. And I just saw on your social for TYB, one of my favorite brands, my hair care brand, Ceremonia, that
Oh,
is opening
yes.
up their flagship in Soho, is working with TYB. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Will be another opportunity to see that integration and be part of that community because I use their hair care. I love their shampoo and conditioner. Literally, I have almost the whole product line now. So I was really stoked. Yes, such a great product.
Yeah.
So I was really stoked to see that brand now using TYB technology to build that community infrastructure even more, which I feel like even from the beginning, they had a lot of community engagement to develop the products and test the products and get testimonials. So I thought that was a really cool next step of just watching that brand and following that brand.
Yes, we love Ceremonia, and shout out to Baba.
Yes.
It's their comunidad, right? And
Mhm.
I think what's so great to see brands like Ceremonia come on to use our technology is that Baba is building that brand with that sentiment where
Mhm.
the benefit of being able to see and know your customers more closely is that you can better solve their problems. So you can better understand what kind of products they want to experience, how they want to use them, and then the type of experience or store environment events that they want to integrate with you and have with you. And so our tech just seamlessly allows brands to build those relationships, to prompt the community to take valuable actions, many that they're already taking, right? So whether it's sharing on social, for Ceremonia, for that example, there were QR codes at the store opening last week where guests could check in and become a member of the community, where they can write reviews, invite their friends into the community. And the key differentiator is that they can talk to each other, they can see each other. So we, as brand builders, remember the time when the quiz on the website was the new cool thing, right? It was a
Right.
way to have engagement, ask you your preferences, and then get your answer. And then as a marketer, right, wanted to get your email so then I could re-engage you for conversion down the line. Well, when you think about that as a user, when you take that quiz, I'm used to operating in a world where I can see people online and I can interact with them. Why wouldn't I be able to see all the answers behind the quiz and then comment on those answers and start chatting and talking to those people? And so we're finding that kind of gamified social engagement is really what's bringing the users of the various communities back and back to re-engage. And ultimately, it provides brands a way to offer a really fun, deep engagement experience in between, just search or the website, and then
Mhm.
ultimately conversion.
Yes. And something that you brought up earlier that I would love to dive in a little bit more to is how TYB makes that community engagement measurable because that has always been such a struggle from the marketing side, social media side. I was a creative director and partner of a community-based restaurant, and the whole ethos of the restaurant that it was community-based. We had a community table. We had so many activations. I mean, each week I had at least 3, 4 different activations, community events, really active social. And that because we had zero marketing dollars. I
Yeah.
was given zero.
I think
And
a lot of
so
people listening will I understand where you're coming from.
understand that. And, we built it to 7 figures plus. And so when I was doing that, it was all based on community. But I did hit a snag of being able to communicate that with, say, another round of investors or, explaining that to people who are like, what the hell are you doing? Why is this successful? And I would say it's about community. We have a lot of community engagement, but it was genuinely a struggle of mine of communicating that and showing the ROI, so to speak, of having those events and investing in, live music, why that made sense versus just a playlist on Sunday brunch, right? So I
Right.
would love to know, like, what are some of those things that you're now being able to say, like, we can measure this and we're able to do that with this technology, just to give some tangible examples of helping people see the impact of using this tool?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So, very simply, TYB is an all-in-one community management platform that enables brands to directly engage and then reward their fans for taking these valuable actions. But how does the tool actually
Yeah.
work, right? So, there's 4 main components. One is TYB enables membership. So you can join a community, you can chat around common interests like the city you live in, your profession, or products that you use and you're interested in learning more about. The brand can then prompt those community members via what we call challenges, and they can get product feedback, like, right, hearing what does Kelly think about the Ceremonia guava, right, rub.
Hmm.
They can the brand can prompt the community to write reviews, co-create user-generated content, provide access. I think this is key to mission-based events and content. Right. So what you experienced with Joe Holder's exercise snacks launch, that was a day of movement and activity. And when when Joe's community attended the event and they checked in via the QR codes, they were rewarded for doing that. And so that's key. All the brands can reward all of that engagement that happens, both offline and online with coins. The community then can they redeem those coins on the brand's website for either early product access, which we've been seeing a ton of. We can talk more about that.
Yeah, I love that.
Discounts, exclusive merch, content. And then lastly, and to your question, most importantly, for my statistics nerds and listening, you
Hmm.
can connect like a regression analysis. What of those offline and online engagement activities connect to the purchase data? And then you can start to toggle and play around with, okay, these events are leading to an increased frequency of purchase by 5 points, or the LTV of my community is 4 times higher than those that are not in my community. And so for the first time ever, like Kelly, with your $0, budget, you can go back and say this event directly led to an increased frequency of, 5 points. And then you can start constituting a budget to invest more in the engagement activities that are actually converting.
Love that so much. I really do. You make my marketing heart so happy.
Well, I think that's because
Yeah.
you also have spent, and you get so instinctually from knowing you and your work, what upper funnel brand building is and awareness.
Yes.
And for so long, I talk to so many, I'm so lucky I get to talk to so many brand builders every day. And even functionally, like we've split up the functions as upper funnel brand building. These are my creatives. And then
Mhm.
on the right hand, you've got the performance growth marketers that are literally just quantitatively optimizing every, point of the user journey flow to convert. So I think what we're trying to do, what we are doing with
Yeah.
TYB is connecting the left hand and the right hand for the first time through measurement.
Which I really appreciate. And that was something that really struck me because I also went to one of the TYB community gatherings online because I have an account with Joggy and also Howdy of
Oh,
testing out
amazing.
those. Yeah, I've been really like
I
nerding
love
out
this.
about this platform. It's genuine like excitement and nerdiness coming from me. And it was something that I was really struck by when you all were going through how the platform works and the community and how engaged everyone was and really connecting those dots. I was like, yes, like this is really valuable and impactful to build community-based brands and brands that want to have that in community engagement and really value it, which to me is like the number one thing you can do when building an emerging brand. So that was something that really stuck with me of how you all are doing that.
I'm curious what you think about the macro trend around consumers, community members wanting to have this relationship with their brands. Like how are you seeing that evolve and why?
I personally felt that shift when people started making purchases aligned with their lifestyle. That it
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily, I just need a shampoo to wash my hair, but I want a shampoo that was clean with ingredients, that was not tested on animals, that supports a female founder, right? When we started making that shift to purchase based on our values, I feel that we also made that shift to become more aware of who we're purchasing from, that the brand really mattered and the ethics behind that brand and how that brand also reflects our lifestyle and our values, right? So I have been studying that. I remember studying that when I first went to college when I was 18. So this is a while
Like a
ago.
couple of years ago.
Last year. And I remember, so that was what, 2004. And I remember the only thing I could get my hands on was a book from the founder of Tom's of Maine. Do you remember
Hmm.
that brand?
Of course, of course. I still have my shoes that he sourced from Argentina in my closet as keepsakes.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
this was the deodorant brand. Remember Tom's of
Oh,
Maine,
I
the
thought you meant
deodorant brand?
Tom's like buy one
No,
get.
that was like even further along. But
Oh dear.
remember
Yes, yes,
Tom's of
yes,
Maine, the deodorant,
of
the
course,
natural
yes,
deodorant? It was like one of the first natural deodorants.
yes, yes,
So the
yes.
founder of that brand wrote a book. And the only other example I had was like Whole Foods started becoming a little bit more popular. John Mackey hadn't written his book yet, but like I could I heard of Whole Foods. And so when I was 18 in 2004, those were my two examples I would bring to school and show my professors of like there's going to be this shift in consumer behavior that people are going to want to purchase brands based on their lifestyle, aligned with their ethics and values. And can I tell you how many professors, students literally laughed at me? They're like,
Hmm.
that's never going to happen. A brand is, it doesn't matter. A product is a product, a widget is a widget. Like, they don't care. Unless it was like really like luxury, like Louis Vuitton, like maybe there could be like, okay, they want to purchase that versus a bag from, say, Walmart, right? But I just saw that so long ago, and I think it's just becoming more of a thing that we could share of how the brands reflect our lifestyle and values. So it's just becoming stronger as the years have progressed with being able to share that with more ease.
I love that. I love that. And I think that that's the big opportunity is that, particularly for brand builders that are just getting started or are, climbing that huge mountain of going from 1 million to $5 million in sales, and then
Mm-hmm.
the bigger mountain of going
Right.
from 5 to 15, and then the like enormous mountain of 15 to
Mm-hmm.
50, which then it starts to roll downhill a little bit more. But the advantage there is that, like, for a lot of the big guys, and I remember when I was head of strategy and operations at Banana Republic, we were looking at all of these emerging brands that were coming in, and the big takeaway was that they could tailor to a more specific community and their
Mm-hmm.
needs. And that's something that's harder to do when you surpass the $1 billion revenue mark as a consumer brand. So I think the takeaway for us and what we're seeing is that this next generation, we've been in the DTC, which perhaps is a fallacy of a term, the last 15 years, because retail is just direct to consumer. It's all direct to
Right.
consumer. But
Right.
we're introducing this new technology through TYB that enables brands, we call it community integrated commerce, or CIC, to take that next step and have a direct relationship with their community members, facilitate the feedback in a way where they feel that they're part of co-creating the brand, and then incentivizing them through rewards to do more of that brand accretive engagement. And so we know that because we've built brands over the last 20 years, we know that you need to have that measurement component to make this really hit home. So also on our founding team, we have machine learning AI scientists. We have professionals that have spent their careers in growth marketing and measuring growth marketing. We spend a lot of IP and develop technology product development on what we call community ROI, so that we can hand this next generation of brand builders a tool to build.
What a great gift for the future. Wow, that is amazing. One last thing I wanted to ask you is, and I can nerd out with you for literally hours, so
we'll
thank
have
you
to have like a behind the
part
scenes after
two.
the podcast. Yeah.
Totally. What is one piece of advice you would give a new founder of an emerging brand, someone who is just starting out, someone who is, learning all these different terms and kind of wrapping their head around like, okay, I want to build a brand that cares about community. I want to eventually be able to work with an amazing company like TYB. What are some things that you would get on their radar now just to like get their brand and their mindset in that direction to maybe build some foundational stuff to start building and growing before making that next step?
I think the biggest mindset shift is thinking of the small as big. So thinking of the particular, the local as big. Said differently, and I've learned this from Ty very, very closely, and I also have learned this from Alexis, the original founder of Reddit, where you activate locally, activate particularly, and then amplify digitally. So the reverse thinking is, oh, I remember when I was doing innovation at the Gap, for example, the CEOs would say, I need $100 million idea. I need these big ideas. I think when you're starting a brand and you look at, the distribution options, and you look how hard it is to cut through the noise on social media with rising customer acquisition costs over the last 5 years. I think it's this idea of what we used to call grassroots marketing, but thinking about having these individual conversations with your customers and then amplifying that for people to see, right? You see a ton of that, of screenshotting conversations that happen on Twitter and then amplifying that. It's just the old adage of be really close to your customers, have that be a core brand pillar, and amplify that as being something that's important to you. That can now travel, virtually, digitally, like it never could before.
Thank you so much. I'm personally going to re-listen to this interview maybe every day. I'm just going to throw that out there because it makes my heart so happy. You shared so much valuable information and your experience so generously. And I just want to thank you again from the bottom of my nerdy marketing heart, my brand builder heart, for coming on.
Yes, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I think the second piece of advice, I would just invite anyone listening to, you can just Google TYB. We're the first, our website is the first option to pop up. And we have a ton of case studies. You can join. Kelly, it sounds like you've already figured it all out, but you can join any open brand communities that are currently on the platform on our website. There's media. So if this has piqued your interest and you're interested in learning more about what we're doing or what community integrated commerce is, would invite people to check out our website. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for creating a space to do this. And I know you do so much in helping brand builders think about the next 10 years. So I'm glad that we've converted our from our days of trying to tell everybody what's coming into
Yes.
a way to help them be prepared for it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. Everyone, go check out TYB. Highly, highly recommend it. And thank you again for coming on the podcast. And just thank you for being you. I appreciate it so much.
Likewise. Likewise.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're so welcome. And I'll see everyone on the next episode.